Flamio Hotman, Zuko's mother. It's a story that really makes both Zuko and Azula who they are. So let's talk about how Zuko's mother will be incorporated into Season 2 of Netflix live-action Avatar The Last Airbender, and what some of the comments about Season 2 from Dallas Liu himself suggest. I think it's definitely going to be one of those storylines that Netflix takes and develops a little bit further beyond what we saw in the animation, just like they did with a few of those stories we saw in Season 1 of Netflix live-action Avatar. Let's start by looking at what Dallas Liu himself said about Zuko's mother, and obviously if you don't know who Dallas Liu is, he's the guy that plays Zuko. You can see here from this text, he says that he thinks one of the cool things would be if they touched on Zuko and Azula's mother more in the series, and it would be cool to get to see Azula's relationship with her mother. Now how and where could they do this in Season 2? Well, that should be an easy one. Let's think back to the animation. One of the most iconic episodes of Season 2, and indeed the whole animated series, is episode 7 in Season 2, and that one is Zuko Alone. This episode solely focuses on Zuko, and that's where we get to see his and Azula's relationship with their mother in a series of flashback scenes, and I think that's exactly where they'll do it in their live action as well. However, given what we've seen already in Season 1, I think Zuko Alone will actually be a lot earlier in Season 2 than we saw it in the animation. You see, from what I've heard, it sounds like they're going to introduce Toph a lot earlier in Season 2. In the animation, she actually didn't arrive until episode 6, which was the episode before Zuko Alone. Now if they do move that Toph episode earlier, that could definitely mean Zuko Alone also moves earlier as well. The good news is though, that means they could extend a little bit more around Zuko's mother, and it's a very good way to help build that backstory, which again we saw them do a few times in Season 1. If you think about Uncle Iroh and that scene with his son's funeral, we never saw that in the animation, but it was a good opportunity for the live action to give a bit more backstory to some of the characters. Now in terms of what will they show and how much further will they go, I expect there are a few scenes they could definitely build on. Remember when Azula's mother took Azula off for a chat? The animation didn't really show what they actually talked about, but it kind of feels like given that Azula had a bit more airtime in the live action in Season 1, it feels like they could give Azula a bit more time showing her interaction with her mother, and kind of like Dallas Liu said in his comments, showing how Azula's relationship with her mother has kind of shaped her into who she is, and indeed who she's going to become, because don't forget, a lot of her cold-heartedness and her eventual breakdown in the animation pretty much stemmed from Azula's relationship with her mother, and I'm pretty sure that's something Netflix will want to highlight. The other interesting part I think they could build on during this episode isn't just Zuko and Azula's relationship with their mother, but also their mother's relationship with Fire Lord Ozai. The animation didn't really show that much between the relationship. It did show the depth of which their mother was willing to go to protect them though, and that, as you may know, involved her killing Fire Lord Azulan. And that was in order for Ozai to become Fire Lord, and the reason she had to do that was to protect Zuko, because of course Ozai tried to maneuver his way in to become the next Fire Lord, taking over from Iroh. Obviously his father didn't like that, and in return the current Fire Lord had ordered Ozai to kill Zuko as a punishment. Of course Ursa, which is the name of their mother by the way, wouldn't allow that to happen, and that's how all of this transpired. But in the animation, we didn't really see that much of this transpire. We certainly didn't see her killing the Fire Lord, nor did we see much of her afterwards in terms of her interaction with Ozai and how she managed to escape the Fire Nation. So it feels like Netflix could definitely build upon that. And one good thing is that there's a lot more lore around this now as well. If you read the comics, you'll know a bit more about the story of why Ursa left, and indeed how she left, as well as how she managed to evade the Fire Nation for so long. Now I don't think they'll show the full depth that we got from The Search, which was the name of the comic series, where Zuko and Team Avatar went to find his mother. However, I do think they could elaborate a little bit more around Ursa, what happens when she escapes the Fire Nation, and perhaps leading off into the dark, where she'll eventually find her new life. We do know the Zuko Alone episode leads quite nicely into the chase as well, which is where you see Azula face off against Aang and Zuko, and then eventually the rest of Team Avatar, as well as Uncle Iroh. So it might very well be that they kind of combine the Zuko Alone episode and the backstory with their mother, connecting into the chase, which will then see this fight, and that in itself kind of gives a bit more gripping story to that relationship between Zuko and Azula. A couple of other things to remember from the Netflix live action series is that they may have already teased Ursa, and some of this ties into what I've already said. I mentioned Ursa's story after leaving. The Mother of Faces is actually part of that story. I might do a whole backstory video for Ursa at some point, but long story short for now, the Mother of Faces essentially gave her a new face and identity. We know Aang came across Ko the Face Stealer and had to retrieve the Mother of Faces relic to give back to him in Netflix live action series. That suggests we could indeed see the Mother of Faces and Zuko's mother. A more subtle reference was when Zuko was in bed after Ozai burned him, and Ozai called him weak, just like his mother. Again, another reference to Zuko's mother. So that's exactly what we could see of Zuko's mother in Season 2, and what we've already seen so far in Netflix live action Avatar The Last Airbender. There definitely seems to be a lot of scope to show more of Ursa's story, and certainly how that story's affected Zuko and Azula, and I feel like that could play a big role in Season 2 of Netflix Avatar The Last Airbender. One thing's for sure though, it's all going to be very exciting. I've got lots more Avatar videos coming your way, so don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest news. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.